Okay, so we've got our lineup locked and loaded 13 minutes before the tournament begins. I'm going to go ahead and break down to you guys my strategy for this tournament. So effectively, it's going to be a bit of an offshoot off of the first lineup that we had brought yesterday. We're bringing effectively the same decks, but a few cards in them have been tweaked to be able to fit the format just a little bit better. Effectively, my strategy here is a double target. I talked about this. Conquest is a game of effectively weakest link, right? Because when your deck loses, it has to play again. The decks that are losing have to play more, so it's a better idea to effectively build your decks around decks that are more likely to lose. You want to punish the weakest link. Now, targeting is a very common strategy in Conquest formats, wherein you effectively create a weakest link that has a hard time getting through your decks. You pick one deck that you expect everyone to bring, and that is somewhat counterable by the diversity of your lineup, that you can build a lineup that every deck in your lineup is favored against that deck. And you make it so that if that deck can't win, if your opponent is running that deck and they can't win it, you win the game. Even if all of your decks literally can't beat any of your opponent's other decks, which of course won't happen to that degree. But even in a case like that, if their deck that you're targeting can't win, you win the set. You win the match, right? Because they need to win with every deck to get through, period, right? So in Conquest, a lot of players are going to be targeting specific decks. Now, the question is, how do you find a deck that's so common and so counterable? That's a little hard because, on average, typically the more common decks tend to be less counterable. And, you know, obviously that's just how meta stability is always going to work in either ladder or tournaments. So, basically, you have to do some fairly specific strategies to get there. My strategy for this tournament since yesterday we did a bit of a softer target, but today I know exactly what I'm doing, especially after analyzing how many people in every pool are bringing each individual archetype. Me and the boys basically looked and counted up and tallied up all the different archetypes. We did this during our prep last night after my stream. And here it is. We see 22 people are running Bannerman, 11 people are running normal aggro, 7 elusive, 7 speaking karma, 7 failure Ezreal, 5 aggro burn, 5 draven Ezreal, etc. A bunch of jank shit down here. Okay, so basically a lot of people running Bannerman and a lot of people running normal aggro. I've basically built my lineup. It was already like somewhat built with this in mind, but I've tailored it a little bit harder towards the idea of double targeting. Double targeting is fairly rare when you get the opportunity to do it, and it's pretty effective when you can. Basically, we're not just building our lineup against being favorable against one deck, we're building our lineup against being favorable against 2 decks. That means that each of our 3 decks has to have a favorable matchup into each of the 2 decks we're targeting, requiring 6 favorable matchups. Now, you might look at my lineup and you might say I only have 5. The 2 targets here are Bannerman and Aggro. The 2 most common decks actually happen to be, in my opinion, right now, fairly counterable. Let's go ahead and see what I have here, okay? My strategy here is also going to be involving banning control or deny. Basically, I think that every matchup is running... Almost every matchup is running Bannerman. And I think Bannerman is a bit more counterable than people give it credit for. And I think that a staggering amount of people are running aggro. Personally, I think more than they should. And that's kind of what I've built this around. I think that right now the card pool is in a state where it's really hard to build 3 control decks. Basically, here's the thing. Control beats midrange, midrange beats aggro, aggro beats control. Generally speaking, there's some exceptions to this because Shadow Isles has a couple of neat cards that actually kind of smash aggro, okay? Depending on the kind of aggro it is. But that's generally speaking how it's going to be. However, I'm noticing a shit ton of people are bringing aggro. So I'm bringing a 3 midrange lineup that is all tailored to beat aggro, so that if my opponent is bringing aggro, they'll have to let it through. So now you might ask, what is stopping other people from doing the same to me? Because it's rock, paper, scissors. And my answer to that is the card pool, the limitations of the card pool. I think it's very hard to bring 3 control decks right now, right? Now you can bring 2. You can bring Karma Ezreal, and you can bring like Freljord War Mothers. You can do that without overlapping the allegiance. But it's really hard to bring 3. You can't really bring a third one there. It doesn't really work, right? So it's really hard to do a mid-range targeting lineup. And a crazy amount of people are running aggro, which are feeding off control, which I think is going to be a little bit less rare. I don't know. I've personally never really had a huge problem with aggro. So effectively, my lineup is 3 mid-range decks that are all tailored to beat aggro with kind of like a side plan of doing well against Bannerman as well, although I will say that's a bit more of a side plan, okay? So let's look at the decks, and let's look at, now that we understand everything, let's look at the decks, look at how they changed from yesterday. So this is Knox Ezreal. This deck happens to be both very good against aggro and very good against Bannerman. The reason it's good against aggro is it has an easy time committing a lot of cheap tools that are going to stop their game plan very effectively. Those are Blade's Edge, Jury Rig, House Spider, Thermogenic Beam, and sometimes Mystic Shot. That's basically it. If you just like kill a lot of the aggro stuff in the aggro in this game is always Swarm. It's like they're running Crowd Favorite and they're running Vision, or they're running like the Bannerman Lucian aggro. Aggro is Swarm. Those are the same things. So when you are able to basically just trade 1-for-1 cheaply, kill their cheap units, turn 1 they play, you know, Precious Pet, I Blade's Edge it, I feel great. If I just keep doing that all game, I win, right? This deck also happens to do very well against Bannerman, because Blade's Edge counters Barrier. So Blade's Edge is a premium card in my double target lineup, right? And this is the kind of card I've basically aimed for. Now, there's a couple of cards. Noxian Guillotine, for example, is bad against aggro, but it's very, very good against Bannerman. And I think that this deck is good enough against aggro to afford it. From yesterday, we've cut 2 Get Excited for 2 Culling Strike, because I think that Get Excited is actually just kind of a little overkill. I want some things that I'm sure are going to get early game value. Get Excited is more of a late game tool, because using it on a unit isn't efficient unless you have an axe in hand, whereas Culling Strike will usually just be able to kill kind of all the same things. We have changed the Bannerman list. I'm running 3 Navori Highwaymen, which is a little spicy, and 1 Deny. The 1 Deny, as I mentioned before, is fairly important to force people to ban this list if they're doing like a hard Deny ban lineup. Like, for example, there are a few people, at least in the top 32, that are running like a full, pretty heavy control lineup where it's like they're just gonna ban every Deny they see. Like War Mother's Harrowing, kind of like super spell heavy lineup where it's not only Deny but like Will of Ionia that you're just like basically eliminating from the card pool and allowing yourself to do a lot more. Also, it's like, you know, I kind of like one-ofs a bit more with open deck list because it forces the opponent to like play around more things, right? Navori has a Scuffed House Spider here. That's exactly right, Sacred Priest. It's basically it. It's a little scuffed, but I think I like it better here. I did not want to run Karma Ezreal. Honestly, Sacred Priest Karma Ezreal is not bad. I was playing around with it last night. I think that I don't like early versions of the deck, but I ended up with something that looked a little bit like this. I'm a fairly big fan of Used Cask Salesman. I think this deck is fine, but I wouldn't bring it into this lineup because, of course, it loses to aggro. That's kind of the one thing that this gets countered by. It just works in a different lineup, okay? But yeah. I couldn't bring Karma Ezreal. I really wanted to stay in Knox Ezreal. I think this deck does phenomenally well against the field. I think it smashes aggro, and I think it smashes mid-range. I love it against both. And, I mean, running like a singleton Deny here, or, I mean, if I wanted to, I could have done 2 Deny, is kind of nice to have the option for. I expect this deck to get banned out the most anyway. That leaves us with Icy Spiders, which is a bit of a wild card. Now, the biggest changes I've made here, well, I've actually made a lot of changes. This is no longer like an aggressive Spiders deck. This has shifted into kind of a semi-control. We're running Withering Wail, 1 Ruination, and 1 Atrocity. And that's a 3 of Withering Wail. I've chosen this card because against aggro, it ass fucks them. And against mid-range Demacia, it will usually do pretty good jobs. It will pretty often clean up like 1 low health unit and like kill a barrier at the same time. It feels like a very solid power card for the double target that I'm doing here, right? Again, my primary target is aggro. I'm kind of secondary targeting Bannerman. And the Ruination and the Atrocity will help the Bannerman matchup. You guys know that I'm not a gigantic fan of Atrocity. I think it's good enough as a 1-of in this deck. I think 1-ofs are a bit better in open deck lists, so I'm totally fine with it here. And to be honest, it's not like Atrocity's bad in this deck. I've seen versions running 3, and I think that's trolly. I personally, if I'm running Atrocity, it'll be a 1-of. I will say 1 Atrocity is totally fine in this deck. So let's go ahead and import. So first deck on Gnarlinar's side is going to be Draven with Ezreal. This is running True Shot Brush, 2 Noxian Guillotines, less Blade's Edge, less House Spiders. He's on the House Spider version, which I like. I know Alan likes Chempunk in that slot, but Hyped and I like House Spider. I like House Spider. House Spider, this fucking card, dude. 2 units for 1. 2 units. That's all you need, baby. That's a pretty standard Draven Ezreal. It's gonna beat mine in the mirror. It's gonna be like a 55 there. It has a bit more mirror tendencies than us. That's a heavy control deck. I wonder if I'm like prepared for this. 2 Spectral Matrons. Could be kind of spicy. And then here is a Karma deck. Although... Wait. It's not. Wait a second. Now, I'm a little confused. It's a Karma Shadow Isles deck. Which... That 2 Shadow Isles decks? Is there a submission error here? Or did I misclick or something? It's a Nivea. 2 Shadow Isles decks. I think there must be like some kind of bug or something. It would appear you have 2 Shadow Isles decks unless there's some bug. This is kind of strange. I don't know. So we hit yesterday in the 5-round Swiss. We hit somebody on... In the 5-round Swiss, we hit somebody on the 3rd round with 3 Demacia decks. I was kind of curious how he made it to round 3 without anyone pointing out that he had 3 Demacia decks. But now we're in someone who made it to day 2. I guess it's just because it's a new format and it's a lot of people's like first time. Like I wasn't really being disingenuous when I said, I mean, I didn't rue the rules either. Cast Detain on him, dude. Okay, that actually wasn't that funny, honestly. So it looks like Han's just letting this guy replace. I think he doesn't want to like disqualify this guy. Not gonna argue with the ruling. Tournament rulings are always hard because there's always kind of like no good decision, right? It's kind of like both decisions feel bad. The Karma deck, so that puts him on Ezreal, Draven, War Mother's Control, and Karma Lux. That's probably the single best 3-card lineup against my lineup, actually, or 3-deck lineup. It's just Karma Lux with like a misclicked redoubled Valor in the deck. Okay. I think I'd probably ban the Anivia War Mothers. Lower seed. Did they change it? Is it a set? There's no... Yeah, okay. I think I might have saw something like that.
Round 1. Fight!
Not a great opening hand. This is fine though. Sniping? Oh, like that's why he would switch the decks?
I know what.
I mean, chill. If he actually is, we'll be able to tell pretty fast. Let's not do memes without actual evidence, okay, guys? Come on.
Time for the main event.
So Draven Ezreal is on
basically
Blade's Edge. Very frequently at 3. Skitter can't block into Blade's Edge. And I think Skitter can get higher value here. Skitter can't really block into Spinning Axe either, honestly.
See the Devastian border from here.
If we wanted to, we could flip Elise this turn. That can give me a way to try to threaten the Draven. Killing Draven is just generally speaking pretty important. Flipping Elise would obviously be blocking with Sentry and then playing Elise's Crawling Sensation. That could work.
Watch and learn.
Kind of hard to attack without that. I think that could force a pretty notable response. I'm gonna try it, actually. It's a little aggressive, but I think like leaving Draven on the board is actually pretty bad. Got a bit of a high roll, allows us to preserve our Elise here. It also allows us to dodge Blade's Edge or Static Shock. I think... Left card's a fast action. So that's gonna be like get excited or something? Okay. I don't really like flipping Elise super aggressively, personally. I think flipping Elise is a little overrated here, but the ability to kill Draven is really nice.
Let me change into something more comfortable.
So we've shuffled one into our deck. We can represent a lot of damage by playing Skitterer right now. The counter to Skitterer is a fast speed action anyway, that's going to be Static Shock, right? So you always think about like whether you want to develop into that. There's not actually a ton that makes me feel really bad about Skitterer. I mean, he could like Thermo Beam the Elise to keep his Draven alive, but I think I'm pretty fine with that at that point. This is a lot of damage on Skitterer, and oddly enough, I'm kind of the aggressor in this hand state. Skitterer... I mean, he can't really stop the Elise at fast speed, or at slow speed. I'm turning on his Arachnoid Sentry, but his Sentry is shit value on this board. I'm gonna take a very aggressive Skitterer here. Very, very aggressive Skitterer. Arachnoid Sentry doesn't do anything, because a Spider will kill it, and he can only stun one of my two ways of killing his Draven. Now I can also threaten killing his Draven in a way that forces him to play something to protect it. So, the pass represents Static Shock, usually. Attack order can't matter here. There's no way it would. Huh. I could just bench the Draven, dude. God, that's so aggressive! Could I possibly do that? Could I possibly just leave the Draven behind? I think I'll do this. If he's gonna use Whirling Axes on Spider Queen Elise, I think that's fine. Okay, okay. Axes? He really doesn't want to use axes, guys. This deck runs 3 rummages. Unless there's like a crazy important scenario, it actually has a hard time using axes. Like, you could do an axe and then like a whirling death, but it wouldn't level up the Draven because it couldn't keep him alive. So that's not worth it either. He's also running no whirling death. He really doesn't want to use axes there. We're not necessarily the aggressor in general, but we're on a draw that makes us very aggressive, and he's on a draw that makes him like not really able to stop this right now.
God axes need victims.
He needs to kill my Elise here, so we'll always get glimpse value, pretty much no matter what. I want to threaten a bit more damage though.
These old eyes still see far and clear.
We'll force him to. He'll play like a House Spider, and then he'll Thermo Beam my Elise or something like that. He'll do something to threaten the Elise. He kind of has to. Jury rig. He's rummaged twice now. He has a hard time dealing with a super wide board. Did not draw.
Safeguard our homes.
This is gonna hurt for you.
So basically the question is, he can survive this. The question is, how does he deal with They Who Endure? And the answer is, the only way his deck can really deal with it is Arachnoid Sentry. So basically I just have to make sure I'm open attacking with They Who Endure and I'm good. Because he's gonna feed it right now. He's gonna do like first static or something. Maybe like Blade's Edge. Oh yeah, the Calling Strike, right? Ezreal flip range. I mean, slowing down the Ezreal flip is nice. I could also deny him a Spinning Axe instead. I think the Ezreal target's probably worth more. Okay, it's a nice safety draw. I don't know, we're not really gonna need two. I think at 3 health, he can't really come back from this. Brick. I know it probably looks good, but there's no chance we're ever gonna need the third one. That being said, I mean, all of our draws are bricks now, because nothing can change our win percentage right now, I think.
That egg, did it move?
Don't really want to play Archer here. I'm happy to burn 1, I think. Okay. Yeah, I'm just I'm just double checking he can't do anything super weird here. If I frostbite the Ezreal, he has to get a Mystic Shot by using Whirling Death off of his Draven. That'll cause him to discard a card, which is kind of neat. The only problem with that is it means I can't play They Who Endure this turn. Playing They Who Endure this turn would be a good idea. I can't really see it mattering, but, you know, I mean, it's kind of, like, big and impressive. I kind of just want to play a fucking large boy, you know? You ever just want to play a large boy?
What's that noise?
I'm just thinking, it's like... Sure, I've got his deck list here. I mean, if I open attack with They Who Endure... If he didn't preset it up for Guillotine...
I'm in.
There's nothing he can do.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it's a bit safer to play it now, in case he does some cheeky pass. I guess I have some weird lose condition of board clog. I mean, it's gonna be really hard for him to threaten this. So now it's like, he has 1 shot at Guillotine. That could delay my lethal for 1 turn? I don't know. I'm trying to I'm kind of confused here. Because even if he Guillotines that, you would need Guillotine plus Static Shock. I'm sure I played that last action suboptimally. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do here. Guillotine plus Static Shock, Guillotine plus double Blade's Edge. I don't think he has Static. Yeah, so I'll use Vile Feast on something later, I think. Hapless was about to play? Yeah, I think so. I don't know, we could have double developed They Who Endure. That might have been a bit safer, I guess. Hapless is probably kind of pointless. I'm giving him a bit of an extra chance. I wasn't respecting board space enough. I was kind of committed to the open attack. I was also thinking it's very likely he'll free up my space for me. We got some 14-14s, which are kind of funny. Tryndamere? Wait, why would I Tryndamere? Oh, for Guillotine this turn? Yeah. I don't think that matters too much. Not gonna want feast.
I smell a fight!
I don't know. I mean, you're sort of giving him an action. You could just pass there and burn more mana. The thing is, I don't really need mana. Whereas, like, all he cares about is leveling Ezreal, basically. Yeah, I mean, he could get, like, a pretty crazy burst kill. We got, like, 1 health off of our Vile Feast. Could be neat. Not draw. So the Ezreal's not dead, it's flipping.
It's not bragging if you could back it up.
It's probably worth it to play these 2 cards though. Forces his action. It forces him to like target
Let's
something,
boogie.
which is nice. He shouldn't really have an answer to this. Don't think there's anything he really could have. So now he needs to kill me from 20. I don't know, that'd be quite the trick. Even in like a perfect hand, I don't think you can really do that with that deck.
I'm basically 1/8 gay.
Toset gifted a tier
Yeah, the
1 sub
hapless
to
actually
Cappy
made it
equals great
losable.
face.
I don't know.
This is our first gift sub in the channel.
I just like, I had it in my head that we needed to like open attack there. So I was like, it won't matter if my board is full, but I didn't want to end up committing to the open attack, so it wasn't worth it. Yo, Toasted TV, thanks for the gift sub, man. Yeah, so he's leveling up the Ezreal to keep it alive, which is fine. Obviously, this is less damage on my face. He just lost 4 face damage after that Mystic Shot, which is kind of crazy. Well, it depends what he was going to use to level the Ezreal. You can't say he lost damage or gained damage necessarily. So his nuts play would be like double chump bump here or something. Double chump bump into the Mystic Shot. Set up like a huge kill. And basically our only question is like, do we open attack? You pretty much have to open attack. I mean, can he stop all of this? It's actually potentially doable. I wonder how many thermo beams he has. He could be a little dead. It's gonna be pretty close. Usually, if I play the They Who Endure, what's likely is gonna happen is like a chump wump. Yeah, I mean, he probably has it, right? I think he actually got there.
Do not stand in my way!
Yeah, progress day plus thermo is probably good enough, right? Because now all he needs is like, pretty much like 1 burn card is usually good enough here. Yeah, we actually had to put him on like a much faster clock. That's kind of weird. I thought we were pretty ahead that entire time, actually. So yeah, like a sort of like kind of more control-y version of Knox Ezreal. Plays a little bit slower in general. That's the thing. Like I was explaining about how my matchup how my lineup works is basically like we don't do very well with the control decks in general. And this is like it's one of the faster control decks that you can play, but it's still a control deck, right? So it's like we'll always get to ban one of them, but this deck isn't tailored to beat control really. The hapless I think cost us there. We might have had it otherwise.
Fatality.
We lose the first round. Pretty rough. And then his last deck to get through is the Karma Lux. And it's single Elim right now, so if we lose the first one, if we lose the next one, then we're done. So we're in second game. We have to win with both. So yeah, we're just gonna play with Ezreal here. So we're going first in a second set, and if we win that one, then we're going second again in the third set. Ezreal would rather be attacking on odds in this version, and we'd rather be attacking on evens with Icy Spiders.
Round 2. Fight.
So we've got the weird Karma Lux deck pulled up. It's fairly standard. It just runs 1 or 2 weird cards like Redoubled Valor. Some of the ratios are a little odd. I think this is a bit of a favorite matchup. It's not that far off though. I think you actually keep Sentry in the opening hand here. It's kind of strange, but usually it's like you'll hit the big Remembrance drop or the big standalone target. Kind of awkward hand. I can't try to get it in for 1, I don't think, no. I probably need to open attack. I mean, he's running a version with 2 Remembrance. I could actually be a little greedy with Draven. I could try. We do have the Mystic Shot mana, which makes us good against like most of the Remembrance stuff as well. So I think we just have to develop Draven here.
It's Draven time.
It's like if your Remembrances into a 5/5 or something, we can still shot. If he gets the tough one, then I guess we're kind of screwed. But like the reliable 2 attack feels kind of shit. Snap attack here. No weakness. No weakness on this attack.
As fate wills.
Okay, so he's not standaloning yet. He's playing around Mystic Shot. When he's on 3 standalone.
You hoping they'll die of boredom?
Just thinking about spinning axes. I don't think I can take like a weird aggressive Mystic Shot. Don't think it makes enough sense. I'm fairly happy to like tank 4. Let me try it like this. I don't know, the thing I'm enabling is like the shield, basically.
Tread lightly, strike hard.
I'm pretty happy with this. We can just jump bump here, right? The one thing is, like, we don't really have good ways to single card kill that. Jump bump's proactive enough.
I got ways to find me mushrooms.
I feel like sometimes you should level Draven in this deck, but nobody ever does. I don't really like leveling Draven in this deck. And I think we're just losing value here, right? You want to play aggressive here. The 5-drop is like Karma, which doesn't really do anything. Culling. I mean, sometimes you can get Ezreal off, right? You just want to take this fairly aggressively, I think. I think I just done the 4-2 in attack. It's hard for him to do much. Deck runs 2 Judgment. The 4-2 is a bit of a better stun just because of Jump Wump. I think, you can make an argument to stun the 2-2 though, I guess. Because the 2/2 is a better trade into anything else because it's less committal. It doesn't really have a stat line to protect, right? Now, he doesn't really have a great judgment here at all. It's like a really, really bad judgment. He basically can't go for a judgment here, even if it had a chance of working. Interesting. So at 5 mana, how can he protect that? He can't really. He can repost it and dodge Culling Strike like that. A little scary. I think I'll just go in with a Jury Rig attack right now. The positioning could slightly matter for Spirit's Refuge. Shouldn't really here though. I want to buff the 1/1. It's a little too vulnerable vulnerable of a blocker. I really just don't believe in leveling Draven. It basically doesn't happen, especially against decks that will be able to interact with you too much. So I think leveling Draven is kind of a meme. And he doesn't really, you know. I want to just make sure I'm making his blocks as bad as possible. So he's got to play like a repost here. Basically has to be a repost. I think there's nothing else that could possibly be right. Repost on Emerald Awakener. It's a good bit of lifesteal. Yeah, we want to be killing that, right? I think so.
For the money makers.
You just Mystic Shot it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can do anything else. I'm not sure if we actually do want to Mystic Shot that.
My wisdom.
I guess we're stuck like this on our screen for a while. Take it. One of the difficulties is Ezreal has a bit of a hard time leveling here. I mean, he can't really standalone attack now, right? Unless he just top decked it or
Fast
something.
as wind, light as air.
Wouldn't make any sense. Oh, he had standalone? Wait, why didn't he use it before? I guess I can just chill here, right? Yeah, being at 9 kind of sucks. Ezreal's not going to be leveling. I mean, I pretty much have to House Spider. I mean, Sentry's not going to do too much on a block. I'm not really going to get great value out of open attacking into this, I think. It's probably better to play the Sentry afterwards. You're losing the stun. I don't know, he doesn't have the ability to actually block that much. I mean, the game's on a clock. Does he run Judgment? Yeah, he's running 2 Judgments. I mean, there's no way he can commit to Judgment though.
Cannot see.
Like, you would have to Judgment something that just instantly dies to something like a Guillotine or double removal for full bank.
Let's do this.
4. Yeah, we're quite a bit behind. He'll often have a way to kill us next turn.
If I must.
Second standalone? What? He would always use one first then. Did he just draw a second one? More likely it's just like shield, right? I don't think we can break shield. That feels pretty hard. Shield's like super likely here, because he can't really take that block otherwise. And then he basically just needs to accelerate his clock here, like a Shadow Assassin gives him lethal.
What's my name?
Respect second shield. Would you respect second shield? I'm giving him options by not taking it now. Even some weird shit like deny. He's running 3 deny. This is actually a priced in deny. I actually have to take this now. He can't be on second standalone.
Swift and silent as the breeze. Tread lightly, strike hard.
He has fairly limited ways to punish developing Ezreal. I mean, they can't really kill it, right? It's like just play it.
I thought you'd never ask.
It's not really a unit we're gonna draw that we need to play, right?
We'll bring peace to Ionia, whatever the cost.
There's a lot of draws where I actually have to be mana efficient. If I'm about to draw a progress day or something, I actually might need to Mystic Shot here. No, probably not. Probably not. You could do Judgment plus Barrier, cleans up. I mean, I could just open double shot the Solitary Monk. That seems like the most likely play, right?
I know you're thinking and stuff, but could you maybe speed things up a little?
I mean, single Barrier makes that kind of sad. I don't think that's a winning line off of single Barrier, right? Judgment deny. Like, I have to slow play this. This is kind of crazy. He's gonna stop the second one no matter what, I think. I don't know, the top deck is really bad here. Like a Static Shock or a Progress Day is like a game win. It's basically just, like, get excited that would stop this, Judgment.
As fate wills, if I must.
I could leave like
Peace has its cost.
one scrap dash back, potentially. I could see that. I mean, he must have something else then. I have no choice but to do this. It would be weird for it to matter though. Like, he's playing like he has something else. It's usually like... What would it be? Second repost? Probably deny. Thinking if there's anything it would make sense to save deny for. That'd be second deny?
Oh, take your time, pal. It's not like I've got better things to do. Firing!
Second karma.
Let's see the next slide.
I don't know. I mean, we might be okay if we have like a top deck. Man, playing Ezreal without drawing Progress Day is really PP hands, man. Like, a single Progress Day makes this good. Nuts.
Oh, it's you! I mean, hey.
Sorry. Do I know
Might be too late, unfortunately. This is deniable, by the way. You would deny this. Kind of like a weird deny, but it's a good spot call.
I need no weapon.
Obstacle? Meet Gauntlet.
I mean, you can't take a spinning axe. It just can't make any sense, right? Yeah, I don't think it can make sense. There's nothing you're really looking for. Could you do like a weird stabilize with Chump Wump? I mean, he can't really block it, which is nice. Solid draw. Second deny is all over his range right now. There's like pretty strange hand states here that we can maybe get through. Let's use two. Oh, sorry, third deny, I mean, I guess. So he can level Lux on the stack, but I mean, we can always guillotine her.
The Order rewards its faithful.
Set up 3 guillotine. I think I'm forced into guillotining this turn, unfortunately.
It's too late for you.
He's gonna play a spell here that's going to threaten Lux leveling up, and to stop it, I think I have to guillotine. Which of course means the Blade's Edge goes into the
This is my
4-1.
choice.
And then at that point, you just have to tank the 2-2. I guess he could have drawn second standalone. Yeah, second
Never
standalone is
back
kind
down
of
from what
nasty.
you believe.
So the burst obviously levels the Lux up without response. Nothing we can do about that, unfortunately. It's gonna give him 1 final spark, which is, again, very unfortunate. He won't be able to lifesteal off of this, but it should be enough to represent lethal barring top decks, right? I guess in theory, if he has 6 mana to play out here. So, we need to top deck into shot or something. Top decking into shots no longer good off of that. Well, looks like that's it, right? I mean, what else could you top deck into here? GG. Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, he's dealing 3 here, and then all he needs is 2. So I need 1 card that kills both of his cards on his open attack. I don't think there's a top deck that saves us there. I guess it could be like rummage into something ridiculous. Rummage into double. Right? That's probably the only thing that gets it through. Or progress that, yeah, sure. I mean, it's always better to hit the monk now, right? I think so. I mean, does it really reduce his options? It's not really any like weird static shock combos. There's like an exceptionally bizarre reality where we draw like rummage into shock into Blade's Edge. That would actually make a difference, right? Wouldn't we keep Blade's Edge for that reality? I think so. Thermobeam, so we're out.
Fatality.
Okay. Good. Should I not let him change his decks when he had the chance? Well, the tournament mod ruled that he changed his decks, right? I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. Waiting till next turn until he had more mana might have been right. For what, the guillotine? It could have been, but then we're just getting blasted by Lux, right? I think we're pressured to kill the Lux there. But yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. Actually, I suspect that he didn't intend to switch to a counter deck. I think it was just like the way it worked out, because he wanted, like, I mean, he's obviously like playing very controlly. I don't think that was intentional. I think he just switched to whatever deck he could find, and it just happened to counter our lineup. Do you still agree with your strategy and deck choices looking back? Yeah, 100%. There's very few people in this tournament running like full control lineups. I think there's yeah, like we looked at all the decks. There's literally like 2 people in the top 32 that were actually running full control lineups. Good.